In Aleppo, Syria Senior Chief Petty Officer John Kelly and his fellow United States Navy SEALs are on an operation to rescue a CIA operative taken hostage by Syrian government forces in a nearby building. The Navy SEALs are led by Lieutenant Commander Karen Greer and are accompanied by CIA agent Robert Ritter. They infiltrate the building and free the hostage. After the shootout was over, John checked out the identity of the captors and identified them as Russian after looking at their tattoos and checking their phone. He confronts Agent Ritter, who denies seeing any Russians. On their way out, the SEAL teams are ambushed and one of the Russians launches a rocket-propelled grenade which results in a heavy explosion sinking a part of the floor to the lower lever. As a result, one of the SEAL team members dies and Karen is stuck on the lower floor, but Agent Ritter declares the hostage is the primary point and leaves for the extraction point with some of the SEALs. John, on the other hand, is determined not to leave anyone behind. He orders the extraction of the dead SEAL team member and jumps into the debris of the lower floor. He finds Karen and tells her that Ritter lied to them. The place was not a safe house, but a Russian arms depot. They shoot their way out and join the rest of the team at the extraction point. While riding the extraction helicopter, Karen and John shout at Agent Ritter and ask him to explain. John, in particular, was very angry about losing his man because Agent Ritter didn't brief them accurately. He grabs Agent Ritter and is about to start a fight when Ritter tries to brush off the death of SEAL as part of the job, but he stands down when Karen orders him. After 3 months, John is attending a family gathering. He is retiring from the military and about to be hired at a private security company with a good salary. He enjoys life with his pregnant wife, Pamela, who is due next month. However, things are about to take a hard turn for John and his teammates. A group of armed Russians are sent to attack the SEALs who participated in the operation in Syria. They ran over one of the SEALs who was taking out the trash and opened fire on another SEAL while he was driving at night. Both of the SEALs died instantly. That night, John arrives at his home late from the family gathering. He spends some time having fun with his wife and goes down to listen to some music like he usually does at night. He was wearing headphones and relaxing, while 4 armed men wearing masks cut the power and sneaked into the house. When his laptop runs out of charge, he notices the absence of power. The armed men with night vision, however, have gone upstairs. One of the 2 men fires a couple of rounds with his gun with a silencer. Pamela, who was sleeping upstairs, dies instantly. Then one of the men, who seems to have agreed to be shot, gives the other the signal to shoot him, and the other shoots and kills him. Next, John, who has armed himself after hearing some movements upstairs, begins to hunt the armed men one by one. He kills 2 of the armed men and engages in a shootout face-to-face with the only remaining armed man. As a result, both of them fall to the ground highly wounded. The armed man was about to shoot John, but he ran out of ammunition. A flashlight on the ground forces the armed man to lift his mask, and John sees his face. The man leaves the house, whereas John drags himself to his bed, where his dead wife lies. After a few hours, John is taken to the hospital and is in a very critical condition. Meanwhile, in Washington, a meeting is held to discuss the brutal murders of the SEAL team members. Karen attended the meeting with Secretary of Defense Thomas Clay, while Agent Ritter was the one briefing everyone in the room about the attacks. In the briefing, Agent Ritter implies the possibility of Kelly's team being dirty and advises everyone to consider every possible scenario. Karen is angry about Ritter's accusation and confronts him when the meeting is over. She asks him for the whole story, but Ritter replies simply by saying he looks into it. Back at the hospital, John, who is heavily sedated and his body full of tubes, is having a nightmare showing his wife being taken away from his arms. This causes his heart rate to spike. After some days, John regains consciousness and asks Kelly, who has been visiting him at the hospital, if the baby made it, and she gives him the sad news. Then he asks her for a name, but she tells him she doesn't know. In the coming days, John spends his time going through his recovery process and getting himself back in shape. However, Karen receives some bad news at a briefing. The CIA has decided to consider the matter to be closed, thinking they are now even with the Russians. The armed men were discovered to have ties with Russian intelligence, and the CIA does not see the need to poke bear. She shares this bad news with John, who is now back in the military locker room. He is very angry about the situation. After seeing John's situation, Karen decides to share some classified information with him. She shows him the identity of the men who died attacking him. He asks her about the 4th man, and she tells him he is a ghost. But she gives him the next best thing, Andrei Vasilyev, a former Russian intelligence agent who issued the passports of his attackers. Vasilyev is considered to be untouchable, but John was never going to let this go. He goes back to his bedroom and cries in agony. Then, he takes out a stash of weapons from a water tank in the house and then goes to a motel. He goes to Vasilyev's place posing as a drunk man and leaves after getting the license plate number of Vasilyev's car. He tracks the vehicle and anonymously calls the police, stating a threat coming from the car. He uses this to buy time for himself to cut them off at an intersection, and after the police let Vasilyev pass, he rams the car with a huge tow truck. Then, he pours gasoline all over the car and lights it. Then, he enters the car and starts interrogating Vasilyev. After he shoots him in the lung, Vasilyev gives him a name, Viktor Rykov, and dies. John gets arrested after he gets out of the car. Karen, who secretly leaked the classified documents to the press, visits John in prison and tells him he is in trouble. But John tells her that Vasiliev has given him a name and will only talk to Secretary Clay, who believes John is doing a good job of rattling the cage of the Russians. John clearly states that he will only talk once Secretary Clay gets him out of prison. Then he goes back to his cell and tensely watches everyone's movements. A prison guard asks him to turn around and face the wall, but John refuses. He thinks something is not right and prepares himself for a fight. When the doors open, he punches some of the guards and locks one of the guards in his arm, threatening to snap it. After a while, a United States Marshal gives him a phone, and Karen is the one on the other side. He is rescued by the Marshal, whom Karen told him to trust. Then, he is taken to an undisclosed location where Secretary Clay, Agent Ritter, and the CIA director are holding a meeting. John discloses the identity of Viktor Rykov, who is revealed to be a suspected Russian forces and weapons specialist who embedded agents in the USA. But Agent Ritter tells him the CIA has killed Viktor Rykov, and to prove John has only a name, he asks one of his agents to upload a couple of photos to the screen and asks John to identify it. John immediately identifies him. This meant the intel was wrong. The meeting was adjourned after a decision was made to send a team to Murmansk, Russia, led by Kelly, who didn't want John to be part of the mission. John was allowed to be part of the team by the decision of the secretary, but there is a catch after the mission. John comes back to the United States and will be treated as a felon. Kelly, John, and 3 other CIA members take a flight on a modified passenger airplane to Russia from Leipzig, Germany, but Agent Ritter didn't travel with them. John playfully pokes Karen and asks her why she didn't want him on this mission. She replies saying his mind is messy. They have a moment where John expresses his regret about not being able to keep his family safe. The team is woken up from their sleep by an alert from their plane. Russian fighter jets have spotted them and they shoot the plane down. While everyone tries to get up as the plane is filling with water, John dives and tries to find their Zodiac boat. After nearly drowning, John recovers the Zodiac boat and the team drives the boat out to shore. The team arrives at Murmansk and everyone introduces each other. The rest of the team members were Ricardo, Franklin, and Seymour. They meet Agent Ritter at a safe house and confront him about the plane crash. John suspects Ritter was the one who leaked their location. He nearly chokes him out before releasing him. The team and Ritter travel to a house located in front of the building where Anthony is seen having some drinks. John was tempted to shoot him right there, but he lowered his weapon after staring through his scope for a little while. At night, the team goes to infiltrate Rykov's building, and the operation is underway. Then, John tricks his team into holding back and quickly goes forward to close a gate leading directly to the next room. He bends the lock and forces Karen to find another way into the room. When he walks into the room, Rykov begins to speak to him. What he heard was completely unexpected. Rykov is in the CIA and everything was a setup. Rykov had strapped himself full of explosives and was holding the detonator in his hand. Karen and the team have found another way in and approach slowly. He detonates the bomb on his chest after hinting everything began in Washington. The place immediately turns into rubble. During the shootout, John figures out everything. The reason for this operation was to start a war between the United States and Russia after the team died here. The team is being attacked with 2 snipers and one of the team members gets shot. The snipers also shoot the local police that arrive at the scene. This helps to put more blame on the team and escalate the situation further. John and Karen come up with a plan to stop the sniper while the rest of the team gives them a cover fire. John spots one of the snipers on the 3rd floor, second window. He blows up one of the walls and makes way for him and Karen to go and hunt the snipers across the building. Karen reaches the room and prepares to fire at the sniper, but her gun is jammed and she is engaged in hand-to-hand combat. She stabs the sniper after some struggle and they lead the team downstairs, but Seymour is badly wounded and bleeds out right in front of them. Reinforcements have arrived and the team is trapped. Then John volunteers to sacrifice himself. He offers to help the team escape by going to the roof and giving them cover. Karen expresses that she doesn't want to leave him behind, but he convinces her by telling them if he gets killed it won't matter because he is a felon now. John goes to the roof and begins firing and throwing explosives down. This helps the team escape. John, on the other hand, uses a large explosive that knocks out everyone around him and uses the moment to escape the Russian after stealing a police uniform. He reaches the rendezvous point where Karen finds him and he leaves the country with the surviving team members. Agent Ritter, Karen, and John decide to get to the bottom of everything. Karen decides to file her report saying John died in battle. Back in Washington, John, who is now presumed dead, meets Clay in the bathroom and talks to him. He exposes himself when he agrees to know about Rykov's suicide bomb because Karen never disclosed this information. John kidnaps the secretary and takes him on a road trip. John threatens to kill his family unless he tells him everything. Then, the secretary confesses everything while John secretly records the conversation. While they were passing a bridge, John drove the car over the bridge and into the water. He forces the secretary to say his wife's name before they drown. Finally, John and his family are given a military funeral while Karen is present. She gets back into the car and speaks to John, who was rescued from the the water by her. The movie ends when Karen says her goodbyes to John after giving him credentials of his new identity provided by Agent Ritter. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.